Hey everybody, I'm Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and this is day 22? 23.
23.
23 of Acrylic April, so that's where we're at. So I'm going to be showing you how to paint a very simple, colorful, fun desert sunset scene with a saguaro cactus. Look, I'm doing better.
Ooh.
You watch the prep videos, you're like, she finally got it. I'm super excited to be showing you guys how to do this because I actually think it is going to tie back to our first painting. It's going to be really colorful. It's going to be fun. It's going to be beginner friendly. If you check the description below, you're going to see a link to our website. And on that website will be reference photos. There'll be grid reference photos. There'll be a traceable and also a couple extra videos about like how to do a value study and how to use the gridding method to transfer an image on your canvas. Those are all real short and available. And there'll be exchanges so that if you don't have the colors that I have, you'll easily know what colors you do have that will work. So that's all there for you for free. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hey guys.
He is going to be switching the cameras and keeping me going. I'm still a little under the weather. And that's not setting a good example for you, but I have a YouTube show, so I gotta go live anyway. But you should rest in this situation for sure. And just put it at the end of the month. But I will Sherpa on. Can I sip my coffee? I'm going to sip my coffee.
Sip your coffee.
Let's get on in.
All right.
Okay. So you can see that I've used the gridding method to lay out my design. And that's just a really nice beginner-friendly way to start freehanding things in. But again, tracing is not cheating. I have my little reference up here. You guys have your picture-in-picture. Over here are colors, and we've just been using the same colors for the last 30 days. That way you guys could be one and done on expense. I have some burnt sienna, some Naples yellow, some cad yellow medium hue. I've tucked over here a little Mars black, my vermilion, my magenta, my ultramarine, phthalo blue, primary blue, and a big blob of titanium white. This is an 8x8 art panel. They're little economic panels that come in packs. And it's got a little bit of a ground on it, little pink and purple ground, and that's going to let me paint freely and loosely and expressively while not having a bunch of white canvas show through. Whole reason why we do that. So the first thing I've got to do is get in my skies. My skies, John. And I think I'm going to have some fun down here into my yellows. I'm going to take some of my gorgeous yellow and maybe a little bit of my white. And I'm going to come from the bottom and start to work up how I feel like that's going to be. As you know, we're going to have some yellow here. And I can go just pure yellow also, because these are some really beautiful colors, aren't there?
They are.
I'm just loosely paint this here. The great thing about having colors that work well with what we're doing underneath is that even as things are transparent, you're still going to get a nice, vibrant little effect of things. I'm just putting this in. This is very yellow over here on this side of the cactus, as you might have. I'm going to come back and do something else with it in a second, but I just want to get that in. Now I'm going to come up into this with a little bit of white, if you guys can see, kind of dipping over. And you might be like, why? Why some white? Because it's going to help us have a little variance into the next little segment. And since it's going to give us a hand, I'm going to go into it. Now, what I really love is there's these bits of kind of turquoise and orange and things, and they're going to play really well against each other. And how we're going to get that is we're going to rinse out our brush, and we're going to come in, we're going to take one part of our phthalo blue and one part of our phthalo green, and we mix them together. And then I'm going to grab a lot of my white, and you can always get a little of your yellow into it to make it just a bit more green like what you see. And while this is still wet, look, you can kind of work these into each other, which I think is super stunning. I'm going to come in and make sure some of this fabulous, this color honestly is the one I was the most excited about for this painting. And see how we can pull it into that wet space. I use my brush a little bit like a calligraphy. So if you see it, I'll pull back and down, and it makes those thick and thin strokes. And it's okay if you have a little of your pink kind of popping through because it's sunset, right? And you're like, hey, if I got a little sunset going on, I'm adding a little yellow and white, then I can absolutely get into that easy. So just making sure I've got those little bits going on. Oh, I like that. This is going to be so pretty. Dipping in the water, loading with some white. Pick up a little of your turquoise because it's nice for both sides. Grab a little bit of your yellow because you're greening it. So it's almost like a desert jade. You know, it's got the blue in it, but it's also so aqua. I love it. I'm going to bring this around a little bit around the little cactus a bit. And let's take some of this dramatically up, maybe this way, as you might do. A little more yellow. You know, because you might do that. You might be dramatic and take some of that up that way. And already, that's pretty stunning. We haven't even layered in any of the oranges or crazy fun colors yet. Now up at the top, I have a really cool thing up here. So I'm going to take a little of my blue and a little of my ultramarine together and some of my magenta. And I'm going to make quite a dark blue. See how that is?
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're painting with an unlimited palette, I'm brushing this from the upper left, kind of sweeping over to the right. And that's going to be how I maybe talk a bit about some of the clouds. And you can see me doing that calligraphy movement that I like to do with this. If you weren't painting a limited palette, you might do Prussian blue here, right? Ithridone blue. But what you're going to learn from painting a limited palette is that you can still get the results that you want, even if you don't have maybe all the fancy colors. And you got to think about some of your favorite paintings were painted on a very limited palette because pigment was so hard to get.
Mm-hmm.
I'm being very loose and letting the motion of my brush sort of show in this because I think it's going to add to the piece. Now as I'm coming, I'm going to add a little more magenta into this. And right here, coming down. There we go. A little bit of that right there. So now I have this little sweeping. It's wider at the back. It tapers down in. This sort of darker color. And I think that's going to be really nice. I'm going to rinse this all out. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my vermilion and my magenta together and mix just a smidge of that blue into it. We're going to start talking about this fabulous pink cloud that is happening right here. You can see I'm being very loose and crazy with my little brush stroke. Coming in very thick. And I'm going to enjoy myself here, as you might want to do. Bringing some little bits of it around. So it's a very dark color at this stage, and I'll take some of these little puffly bits. Also in this color range, I'm going to take a little of my vermilion and my magenta and some of my Prussian. Well, not my Prussian, my ultramarine. And let's begin thinking about what this could look like right here. These little bits coming in. Because they're happening, right?
Yeah, they are. Now, you can really see I'm zooming in a bit so you can see the brush stroke through there.
You really want to see the brush stroke.
And that helps build that cloudy look.
It does, and it's an element of the painting that you can always lean into.
You're not trying to hide the fact you're using a brush.
I'm trying to show that I'm using a brush. I'm adding a little bit of white to this just to give it some dimensionality. All right, there we go. Maybe put some of this up into the sky. So we've got this very loosely blocked out. It's sort of fascinating. Now, changing water often is probably going to help you a bit on this piece. Now let's get into some of these high peaches, which are so much fun. And again, you know, we can come in and I'll take a little of my Naples and a lot of my magenta. The interesting little color mix together. And start to maybe apply some of this through here. I'm being very light with my brush, and you can see that I'm letting the paint have its way. Let the paint have its way. Don't argue with the paint. You're like, I didn't know I was being argumentative with the paint.
You're just having a conversation with the paint.
You're just conversing with the paint, saying it could be like this, and then there could be more layers, because that's what you're trying to get. You're trying to get this set of values happening, and then pull in some more layers to what's going on. So you're like, oh, that's a little blocked out. Where am I going next? Well, next, definitely carry some of these colors in through around your cactus. The reason being is we're going to come with another layer, but we want this to be well considered and thoughtful. And sometimes it's fun to grab a little bit of, like, say, my Naples and my magenta, and I'm going to come up to here, and I'm going to add little distant wispies. Can you see these?
Mm-hmm.
Just into that. Because they would be there. They'd be, like, doing their little thing. Now let's dry.
Okay. And so she's drying with the air only, hopefully, from her hair dryer, because heat is not good for your acrylic paint. It causes color shift. It causes things to get soft, because acrylic softens with heat. And that can cause your next layers to leave brush strokes and be sticky. So it's best if you don't use heat and just use air, and that causes the curing to speed up. Then you get no problems.
So what happens when you're painting less pigmented student paints? And this is the best brand of student paints that you can do. You're still going to have to make sure you dry layers, and you're going to have to come to work for your vibrancy. That's the difference. So the money that you save on the pigment means you're going to spend a little extra time tweaking on the canvas. And as long as you always have that in your expectation set, you'll be fine with what's going on. Now I'm going to take a little of my magenta and a smidge of my cad yellow, and I'm going to begin to start to talk about maybe some of those brighter colors right here. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to just come in. Now I've got some pure magenta, and you're going to find that as you layer those pure bits of pigment over, you will start to see some of those brighter pops that you were looking for. You just have to go a little further. Now I'm going to get a little white into this. Right? A little white. So we're going to use color and value. And can you see the little whites pop?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they got to do. They got to pop, pop, pop. A little more pink. You know, just know that you've got a little of this that you're working with. There's a little pink there. This is kind of like that first time, but now we're kind of used to this pigment a little bit more. So we can handle it. I'm going to get into that peach here. Such a fabulous peach that's happened right here. I don't want to lose that. So yummy, yummy. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that maybe talk about that a little bit. And there could be some right here. You see, we're building it up. It's going to start coming out of nowhere. Now the next, really make sure your brush is dry. The other thing you'll find with student paints, in my opinion, is that you really can't use as much water in them to improve flow, because the pigment loads are not so saturated. So that's an adjustment that you might want to make. I'm going to pull out some just pure yellow, and I'm going to get some of my vermilion. And these two, because they're both quite warm, will start to make some very fun orange clouds. All right, and we're going to come in here. I'm going to go over the cactus and bring some of that orange here, as you do. I'll pull that orange right through that whole space, see? That's lovely. A lot of it in this base here, I'm still pulling yellow. And you'll find where you've got that aqua and you add these oranges, things get real gorge real fast. I'm going to pull some of this through the bright yellow area that I have. I know I've still got my bright red to work through, but it'll be fine. Just making sure that these are good. I've got a little bit of saturation that I can pop up here. And I'm going to want to pop it. Pop that saturation. You're going to want to.
Of course.
Yes.
Why not?
Why not? I'm going to get a little bit more of my yellow. I don't mind if it picks up some of my orange into it. And I'm going to make sure that this here, even though we've got this aqua, that there's pops of this. And you'll notice where it goes against the purple, it's really impacting the purple. You can always come back into here. See?
Can
and
I
work
ask
with
you,
that too. You can ask me anything.
the size of the surface you're using?
Why
did you choose that?
I chose it for myself, so it would be large enough for you guys to see when I was teaching, but small enough where I wouldn't get swamped in the size of the canvas, and we're trying to keep those time scales a little bit lower.
So if someone wanted to scale it up a little bit or down a little bit,
They totally can.
Wouldn't be a big deal?
No. Especially if it's square. You can easily scale it up square or not. If you're doing something besides square, you're going to need to do the mass. I'm mixing the vermilion and the magenta, and I'm going to come to this cloud. I'm going to add some of that little pop right here. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to really be gorge, and I want to make sure we've got it. And every once in a while, it's just good to find those little pops of color in your sky. Clouds get mentally like stressful. I'm going to grab some just vermilion. I don't mind if I pick up some of the other. And they truly can be, right? They can be very stressful. But if you step away from that mental space of I'm painting clouds, and then, that inner dialogue where you're like, and clouds are hard, which everybody has, then you just start painting shapes and color and they come in pretty easily. I feel like this could use a second coat up here in that corner. So again, a little bit of my magenta blue and primary blue. And I'm just using the magenta to deepen that color. And you can see the second coat is quite saturated. So don't, feel like, oh, well, look, I think highly pigmented paints are the bomb. I do. But I'm just saying there's a way to get there, even if maybe you have a little less pigment on hand.
Just a couple little layers there.
Yeah, you just are into the layers. And now we have a very saturated landscape.
It is.
Super saturated. Lots of excitement. Lots of fun. And I'm going to start painting the, actually, I'm going to dry this because otherwise my hand will drag wet paint everywhere as I rest it to paint this cactus.
Mm-hmm.
I just know me.
So, while she's doing that, if you guys check in the link in the description down below, you'll find links to our website, and there on the top you can find a video tab where you can search our website for all the different things you want to find, maybe other cactuses, skies, sunsets. There's all sorts of good stuff out things there. There's also an event tab where you can find out about like Hot Springs Arts in the Park and Pinners and the other events that we're attending. All that's in the information down there below.
Oh, it's so exciting. There's some exciting stuff happening in the events.
There is.
I'm taking my green and my burnt sienna, and I'm making a very dark color. And I'm going to begin very carefully painting in this fabulous cactus. And I am just using this one brush. If I have to change, I will. But if you've been going with me all this month, and I can't believe we're coming up on a month, you might have noticed that I've been trying to keep from switching brushes quite as much.
You have been all about the way of the one brush.
Yeah, I have been a little one brushed.
The way of the brush.
Just not like even through the whole event, but just per painting. I'm just trying to think about these single brushes and
Well, it kind of forces you to explore the ways that that brush can make marks, and sometimes by limiting ourselves to a stage, we can perform better.
oh, that's a nice way of putting it.
That's what they
It
used.
also kind of forces you to loosen up.
It's true, yeah.
It does. It gives you this forced loosening up space where you're like, well, I have to loosen up because, like, how frustratingly detail oriented can I get?
A
Now, but there's
lot.
nothing wrong with being detail oriented. You can do a detail oriented painting every day.
Yeah, I would never step away. I don't know how you're able to just like know when to be done. That's something that I would totally have problems with.
Be struggling with, be like, I don't know where done is. I
Yeah,
don't know where my done
because
is.
you
I'm gonna take some orange, so that's the red and the yellow mixed into my green. Looks kind of like a mud brown here, interestingly enough. But over here, it's going to be the basis of a little bit of our highlight in the sun. And we're going to do it again with like some orange, but I wanted to mid-range it. So see how I'm catching where the cactus's little arms might catch some light? And I may have to come in here and even kind of play with where they capture some shadow. But that's what we're trying to do, is capture some light on our little arms since they're in the sun. Now I'm going to dry this, and I'm going to dry my cactus just real fast so I can lay our brighter orange over it.
okay. So she's just, as we said earlier, gonna make sure that that lower layer is nice and dry so that the next layer doesn't sticky to it when she's trying to put it on there. Because acrylic likes to stick to other acrylic, especially when it's in that tacky stage. It will just get all gummy on your brush. So it's good to make sure it's dry.
Yes, it is. And so I'm pulling it out, just making sure we've got it dry. I'm going to go ahead and grab some of my yellow and red together, and it makes a pretty bright orange. It's okay to tap it into a little brown. And I'm going to come in just a bit from the outside edge, and I'm going to hit a highlight.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit of one there. Because this little fella's got a little hot sun on it.
I'm trying to manually focus that one a little bit.
And then again here, in almost this whole one is sort of stood out by its...
It's at a very odd angle there.
Yeah.
There we go. Ah, that's better.
We've got that going on. So that's starting to have that shape, that feeling. I'm going to rinse out very much, and then I'm going to take some of my green. I've already got some brown over here, and this time I'm going to get some black into it. That'll make it, much deeper than anything I've done on the space. So you're going to find that you can maybe even up that shading. Helping this piece kind of stand out. And I might even kind of imply maybe some little ridges, if I can, which I could. So you see a little ridge on there. feel like I need to take my magenta and my ultramarine and just come in here. So what it was is I'm looking at this little cloud and I'm like, is there enough contrast? Am I really seeing what I have here? And you can always be, you know, adjusting those little spaces to be like, is it pop the way I want it to be, or do I need to do something else? I'm going to pull out some just magenta and add the smidgiest smidge of white. And I'm going to try to pop these little areas as well. I've got a reference. Added a little vermilion. If I can richen it up. Just trying to make sure that my colors are saturated in the way I would want. From there. I like the peach. I don't want to take it all out, but sometimes you'll look and you'll say, oh, I just need a little bit of that. So don't ever feel bad about or weird about saying, all right, with the colors that I have, I want to go back and pop something up, or I want to change something up. Now there's a bit of some bushes and some stuff at the bottom. I'm going to not actually change from this brush. The only thing I'm going to change out for is when I sign. I think that will be very, very interesting. I'm looking, actually, it's pretty good. All right, so a little bit of the black over here, right? We've got a little of this green. And I'm going to use the scratchiness of this to kind of imply a very twiggy little bushy brush right here. So I'm using just this, and it's going to give me that sense of things. And then I can, oh, there's, and then you can easily deepen it up. There we go. Our reference didn't actually have that much ground and stuff going on, but I'm going to add a little more. And the reason why is that the crop of this piece aside, I still want to imply just a little more ground than I'm seeing. Yeah, we're doing there. We're just using how this brush is, aren't we?
There it goes.
If you never tried this, and I'll just show you real quick on the back, right? So bristle brush is pretty scratchy, and if you just curve strokes, change the direction, you get marks like this. They're like little distant bokeh plants, aren't they? Not that bad. You could look at any picture and be like, oh, I catch the shape, and little grass, little grass. See how I'm just using the toe of the brush?
Yeah.
And just being a little crazy. That's I know it's like, where's that grass come from? But that's how that happens. I'm just demoing that, so if you've never seen it before, yes, you can absolutely get your detail brush out and add little individual twigs, but I'm just trying to capture just a moment, a little space, a hint of something that happened. And then I'm going to get myself a signature. Maybe a little turquoise because I like it so much. I'm just using my little brush here, and I'll come sign quietly in the corner. Now, something that I do that is very frustrating to framers is I sign close to the edge. It doesn't give them a lot of lip to work around. So if you're planning on framing, remember to give your framer like an 1/8 inch, just something to catch the frame on. Weird thing, you might not know. Oh, I like that. I like the blue on the corner like that. It's a nice little piece. I'm happy with that little sunset. All right, I'm going to flip it around. Just a happy little cactus at sunset.
Turned out
So
great.
I think we're getting in the habit. We're working with our media every day. We're working with our tools every day. I'm seeing so many of you say things like, I'm growing in my skills and I'm growing in my techniques, but I'm also getting more relaxed about what I find to be great about my paintings and maybe what I find to not be as great, that it's not as an important factor for your experience of painting. You guys are starting to see like, oh, it's just the process. It's just doing the techniques. That's what this is all about. And then the paintings are this end result that I get. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at the easel really soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.